Hey guys, today we are continuing our conversation around summing. Is it something that you should use? When should you avoid it? Is it something you should set your rig up around? If you watched last week's video, you will know that summing is never going to be a perfect solution in every scenario, but it does perform well in certain areas over others. Namely, to review, it does well with delays and reverbs, doesn't do so well with modulation like chorus, maybe a stereo tremolo. The flint it does quite well with because the flint doesn't pan back and forth on its tremolo. It sends the same signal even in stereo. So if you have a stereo modulation that's moving back and forth, summing is not going to be a great solution for you. But I'm going to tell you about why we put the two different types of summing in our products: interfacer, underfacer, the wet, dry, wet box, output. If we have summing, these options I'm about to tell you about are included, even in custom shop. The first thing is we have what is called stereo sum and we have split sum. I'm going to show you the examples before I explain this because the explanation doesn't do it justice. The audio examples actually really help. So let's get into stereo sum, split sum, and stereo. The whole time we're going to be running stereo through the pedals, and underfacer will either run in stereo, just left and right as normal, full stereo field, split sum or stereo sum. The left and the right headphones, if you're listening to those, are hard panned the whole time. That doesn't change. Nothing after the underfacer. Settings on the pedals, none of that changes throughout the whole video. The only thing is pushing that sum button or manipulating the dip switches inside of underfacer in this case. Again, all of this applies to our products with summing. We're just using underfacer today because it's the same height as all the other pedals for the most part. Why not? Let's get into those audio examples and we'll show you what we're talking about. Okay, so as you heard, we started with a full stereo signal. If you were on a half-decent laptop or you had headphones in, you'd hear the effects, especially that chorus and delay, moving back and forth. Even the tremolo is ping-ponging back and forth. So I tried to make this as obvious as possible. Effect levels are up a little bit higher than they normally would be, just so we can really hear this example. Then we went into stereo sum. Stereo sum is the default way that all of our products ship. It takes the left and the right input of the pedal. As you can see here on underfacer, we have left and the right input. It merges those signals together and then splits them to the left and the right output. That is stereo sum. Great for ping-ponging delays, stereo reverbs, awesome. Not so great for effects that will have phasing issues when they're summed, like chorus or stereo tremolo. After that, you heard split sum. Split sum takes the left and the right input, it mutes the right input, so it gets rid of it entirely, takes the left input only and splits it to the left and the right output. We've now gotten rid of all phasing possibility between the stereo effects. The downside obviously being you lose half of your stereo field. The reason I didn't explain this the first time around before the audio examples is for modulation, it actually still sounds pretty good. For delay, you'll notice if you listen carefully, we lost half of our delay. The reverb doesn't matter as much unless you have really heavy modulation in your reverb. You won't really notice much of a difference. So delay is the main factor on split sum if you're up for losing half of your repeats. On something like a timeline, only 2 of the algorithms actually pan back and forth on the delay repeats. So for a timeline, it really isn't that big of a deal unless you're really into pattern and really into dual. Then you will lose half of that stereo field. Just really wanted to show you guys a quick example of stereo sum, split sum, and again on all of our products, the stereo option, whether you're in split sum or stereo sum, is exactly the same. Left input connects to left output, right input connects to right output, done. That doesn't change, it's just when you go into summing. Lots of options available. The dip switches will get you your multiple summing options and you can find out which one is best for you. Hope that was helpful. See you next week for another video on the Goodwood Audio YouTube channel.